Have you ever had just one of those days where absolutely everything goes wrong?
Oh,
You know,
definitely.
the exact kind of day I mean. The universe just seems to be actively conspiring against you.
Right, from the minute you wake up.
Exactly. And then on top of all the chaos, the stress, the spilled beverages, your brain just completely stops working in another language.
It just shuts down entirely.
It does. If you have ever felt that incredibly specific, heart-pounding type of panic, you are in exactly the right place today. Welcome to our latest deep dive.
Today, we are looking at the fascinating intersection of, well, bad days and funny mistakes in English.
We are going to explore the psychology behind these awkward moments, why our brains misfire under pressure, and how missed alarms and spilled coffee actually create the absolute best opportunities to learn.
To strengthen how you communicate, yeah. It's a brilliant topic to dig into. We spend so much of our time and energy thinking about how to speak perfectly.
How to craft that flawless, grammatically pristine sentence.
Yeah. Exactly, but perfection really isn't how language works in the wild. I mean, even native speakers have terrible days. They have incredibly awkward moments, their brains misfire under stress, and they blurt out things that make absolutely no sense.
So true.
Framing our understanding of language around the value of embracing these imperfections rather than living in fear of them is such a refreshing approach.
Okay, let's unpack this because I think we need to start by validating just how normal this biological reaction is. Let's look at a classic scenario we can call Daniel's morning. Ah, yes, the ultimate domino effect of a bad day.
The classic chain reaction. So let me paint the picture of the scenario for you. Daniel's morning starts with the ultimate betrayal,
Waking up late.
waking up late. Either the alarm simply didn't ring, or in a sleep-deprived haze, he just turned it off without even forming a memory of doing so.
We have all been there.
The panic immediately sets in. He's rushing around trying to get ready, and in that state of absolute frenzy, he spills coffee all over his shirt right before he is supposed to walk out the door, which of course delays him even further.
Right. And the grand finale of this terrible morning, he runs to the station only to watch his train pull away, guaranteeing that he is going to arrive incredibly late to work.
It is just a pure nightmare.
It really is.
And what happens to a person's brain when they are under that specific kind of morning stress is what we really want to isolate here. When you are rushing and panicking, your cortisol levels absolutely spike.
The stress hormone.
Exactly. That stress hormone essentially acts like a roadblock to your prefrontal cortex.
That's the part of your brain responsible for complex thinking, right?
Yes, and crucially for accessing a second language. If you are operating in English as a non-native speaker, your cognitive resources are already working overtime.
So when the coffee spills,
Those resources are diverted to sheer survival mode.
which perfectly explains the first hilarious mistake in Daniel's story. He finally arrives at the office, flustered, late, covered in coffee stains. He wants to express that his morning has left him feeling exhausted and unenthused. But instead of saying, "I am bored today," he accidentally announces to his colleagues, "I am boring today."
Oh no! It is a tiny suffix swap, but the social impact is huge.
Very different vibe.
It's a fantastic example of the brain swapping the cause and the effect under stress. From a psychological standpoint, it's totally understandable.
Because he is trying to say the morning's events have drained him.
But in his panic, he accidentally confesses to being the dullest person in the office. This happens because the brain is taking a shortcut.
It just grabs what's available.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It knows the root word, bore, but it doesn't have the processing power in that split second to parse the grammatical difference between experiencing a feeling and causing a feeling. So it grabs the first form of the word it finds.
And the hits just keep coming for Daniel. The second mistake he makes in this frantic state is trying to apologize for a separate error at work, and he says, "I did a big mistake," instead of "I made a big mistake."
Right.
I know this is incredibly common, but why does the brain default to did in this situation?
This is a perfect illustration of a phenomenon called first language interference. When we are calm, our brains can access the specific nuances of English.
Like the fact that we use make to describe creating an error.
Precisely. But when you are under the intense stress of a spilled coffee and a missed train, the brain abandons those nuanced rules and falls back on its native operating system.
Oh, I see.
In many languages around the world, the concept of doing and making are represented by the exact same verb. So the stressed brain just translates the concept directly from its native language into English.
Grabbing the most basic action verb it can find, which is did.
Exactly.
That makes total sense. And for anyone listening who has mornings like this, there's some great natural-sounding phrases you can use to survive it.
Simple phrases are best here.
Yeah, things like, "It was one of those days," or "Everything went wrong,"
I spilled coffee all over my shirt.
and the very relatable, "I was already late, and then it got worse."
Those are perfect.
But morning commutes are one thing. It's a completely different level of panic when you were standing in front of your boss and your brain just flatlines. Which brings us to our second scenario.
Ah, Anna's awkward work moment.
Yes. Imagine you are in an important meeting giving a crucial presentation. Everyone is looking at you. And then the technology completely fails.
Always the worst feeling.
The slides freeze, the screen goes dark, and your microphone cuts out.
That is a fascinating shift in context. We aren't just dealing with the rush of being late anymore. We are dealing with acute social friction and cognitive overload.
It's so much pressure.
When you are presenting, you are actively managing your professional persona, reading the room, and delivering complex information in a second language.
So when the technology fails,
Your brain has to simultaneously troubleshoot the software, manage the audience's awkward silence, and maintain your composure. It's simply too much processing for the brain to handle at once.
and Anna's reaction to this overload captures this perfectly. She tries to smooth over the agonizing silence by saying, "The situation was very funny for me."
Oh, wow.
Now, I wonder, is it possible she was just trying to use self-deprecating humor to deflect the tension in the room?
That's a great question, and it's highly likely she was trying to lighten the mood. She meant to say the situation was fun, as in, well, this is a fun challenge we're having today.
Trying to put a positive, upbeat spin on a disastrous presentation.
Exactly. But by adding that ending and saying it was funny for me, she changed the entire dynamic of the room.
Because funny implies something is comical or even a bit suspicious.
Right. By saying a stressful tech failure in a high-stakes meeting was funny for me, she accidentally communicated that she wasn't taking the meeting seriously, or worse, that she found the collapse of the presentation amusing.
It's a tiny vocabulary switch, but the social friction it creates in a boardroom is palpable. You're trying to save face, and you accidentally tell your bosses that you find the entire corporate failure hilarious.
It's the opposite of what you want.
But what she blurts out next is even more bizarre. In the absolute peak panic of the moment, trying to restart the meeting, Anna blurts out, "Good night, everyone."
At 9 o'clock in the morning.
At 9 a.m., I have actually done something similar. I once said good morning to a waiter at a dinner party because I was so nervous about pronouncing the menu items.
Oh.
What is happening in the brain here?
It is a beautiful textbook example of the fight-or-flight response short-circuiting our language centers. When the panic peaks, your brain realizes it needs to say something polite and formal to regain control of the social situation.
So it desperately reaches into its internal file cabinet labeled polite greetings.
Grabs one entirely at random and blurts it out before the logical part of the brain has time to check the timestamp.
So it isn't that she forgot what time of day it was.
Not at all. It's that her brain prioritized the function of politeness over the accuracy of the vocabulary.
So when your brain freezes in that kind of moment, how do you recover without making it worse?
Yeah.
You can't just stand there after saying goodnight at 9 a.m. and wait for the floor to swallow you.
You need to rely on what linguists call pre-packaged linguistic chunks.
These are fixed phrases that you memorize as a single unit.
Right, so your brain doesn't have to assemble them word by word under pressure. For tech failures, you simply deploy... Sorry, I'm having some technical issues.
You are objectively stating the problem without taking personal blame for the software.
And if you do make a verbal slip, you can just acknowledge the elephant in the room with, well, that was a bit embarrassing.
Or the universally comforting, "We all have days like this."
We all have days like this. What's fascinating here is how these phrases immediately diffuse tension. It instantly connects you with your audience.
It reminds everyone in the room that behind the professional facades, we are all just human beings who sometimes deal with frozen slides and accidental good nights.
It immediately shifts the atmosphere from judgment to empathy.
And empathy is exactly what we need, especially when we step out of the high-stakes professional world and into the wild, unpredictable world of everyday errands.
Oh, yes.
Because the mundane moments of life can turn into pure comedy when you're operating in another language.
The everyday situational comedy. This is honestly where the most profound language learning happens. In the trenches of daily life, where the stakes are low, but the awkwardness can be incredibly high.
Absolutely. Let's look at a few rapid-fire learner stories from today's sources that perfectly illustrate this. Here's the first one. You're at a restaurant, you're trying to communicate how you want your food prepared.
Okay.
And instead of asking for the chicken without sauce, you accidentally look the waiter dead in the eye and order chicken without clothes.
Chicken without clothes. This is arguably my favorite type of linguistic mistake because it reveals the incredible creativity of the human brain.
It really does.
Think about what is happening here conceptually. The learner's brain is desperately searching for the concept of uncovered or bare. It knows that sauce is a covering for food. We even use the word dressing for salads.
So in the absence of the exact word for sauce, the brain maps the concept of a covering to the most common covering it knows.
Which is clothes. It makes a bizarre kind of poetic, metaphorical sense, even though it results in ordering naked poultry.
I just imagine the waiter's face. It's brilliant. The phrase you actually want there is just, "Can I have it without sauce?"
Much safer.
The next scenario happens in a shop. You are at the register, there's a line of people behind you, you're trying to pay quickly, and you ask the cashier, "Can I pay with this cardie?" instead of card.
Adding that vowel sound to the end of words is a very common phonetic safety blanket, particularly for learners whose first language relies heavily on open syllables.
Meaning words that end in vowels like Spanish or Japanese.
Yes. English is full of harsh, abrupt consonant endings that can feel physically unnatural to say. So, under the pressure of a busy checkout line, the learner's phonetic instinct takes over, and they soften the hard D of card by adding a vowel sound.
And the funny result, of course, is that they end up asking to pay for their groceries with a cardie, which is British slang for a cardigan sweater.
You are essentially asking to barter with knitwear.
Simple, clean, no sweaters involved. You just want to say, "Can I pay by card?" Okay, the final scenario happens on public transport. You're trying to explain to a friend why you were late, and you say, "I lost my bus," instead of "I missed my bus."
Another classic.
Now, why does the brain translate it as losing a giant multi-ton vehicle?
This one goes incredibly deep into how different cultures and languages conceptualize the world and assign agency. In many Romance languages, for example, the phrasing translates directly to losing the transport.
Like the philosophy behind the language implies that the bus was a resource that slipped away from you.
Exactly. But English conceptualizes the action differently. In English, you didn't misplace the bus, you simply failed to intercept its schedule. You missed it.
It's a subtle philosophical difference in how we view action and responsibility.
And it's exactly the kind of nuance that vanishes when a learner is stressed about being late.
We have chicken without clothes, paying with sweaters, and losing giant vehicles. But here's where it gets really interesting. When we look at these stories, the focus isn't actually on the grammatical error itself. The real focus is the emotional arc of the interaction.
Yes, the emotional journey is the most crucial part of this entire learning process, and it's deeply tied to how our brains encode memory. The progression almost always starts with a massive spike of adrenaline and the thought, "I was so embarrassed."
That is the immediate visceral reaction. The heat rises in your face, the amygdala fires, and you just want the floor to swallow you whole.
But it doesn't stop there. Usually what happens next is a moment of shared humanity. We both started laughing.
I wonder, though, is that shared laughter actually helpful in the moment, or does it just make the learner feel like they're being laughed at?
That is a crucial distinction. If the environment is toxic, it certainly feels awful. But in everyday interactions, that shared laughter is almost always a moment of profound connection. When you order chicken without clothes, the waiter isn't judging your syntax.
They are enjoying a genuinely funny, unexpected moment of joy with you.
Exactly. The mistake completely shatters the formal transactional barrier between customer and server. And neurologically, when that embarrassment shifts into shared laughter, your brain gets a hit of dopamine.
Which anchors the memory.
That emotional roller coaster cements the vocabulary into your long-term memory far more effectively than reading it in a textbook 100 times. You will never, ever forget how to say without sauce after you've accidentally ordered naked chicken.
It's so true. In the end, it was a funny story. The emotion literally anchors the vocabulary. Vulnerability in communication is what actually connects us to other people. It proves that we are trying, that we are human.
If we synthesize the core psychology behind all of these scenarios we've discussed today, it really comes down to this foundational rule. Mistakes make stories, and stories make your English stronger.
There is absolutely no need to hide your mistakes or feel ashamed of them.
They aren't signs of intellectual failure, they are the very mechanism of learning. Embracing that reality takes the immense pressure off your shoulders. You aren't aiming for machine-like perfection. You are aiming for human connection.
I absolutely love that framework, aiming for human connection. So we have a call to action for you listening today. We want you to take a quiet moment today to think about one really chaotic bad day in your own life. Just dig back into your memory.
Notice if there was a funny English moment attached to it.
A time when stress or panic made your brain misfire and you said something completely ridiculous. And if you have one, we would absolutely love for you to consider sharing it in the comments. Let's celebrate those moments of chicken without clothes and good night at 9 a.m.
It is incredibly liberating to share those stories openly. It reinforces the idea that we are all navigating this complex, messy, beautiful process of communication together.
It really is. And before we go, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. We've talked all about how these stressful, awkward mistakes generate the absolute best learning opportunities.
How they trigger dopamine and lock vocabulary into our long-term memory.
Right. So, if our most memorable stories and our strongest linguistic leaps come directly from our most embarrassing, stress-induced mistakes, then perhaps the ultimate goal of learning a language isn't to speak flawlessly at all.
Perhaps the true goal is actually to fail as entertainingly as possible so we never ever forget the lesson.
I think that's it perfectly. Think about that the next time you spill your coffee and miss your bus. Until next time, keep making those brilliant mistakes.